Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be re-lent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a micro-lender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Today, I have the honor of speaking to Dr. Mark L. Teague, a PhD. He is an author of a book called A Working Man's Guide, a value-driven work roadmap for men striving to thrive in a modern America. From farmhand to finance executive, Dr. Teague blends real-world wisdom, faith, and leadership principles to help people elevate productivity across their career, relationships, and their personal life. Dr. Teague, how are you?
I'm good, Gerald. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, same here. Really looking forward to our conversation. And as I said, I've always asked a couple of questions of my guests because I'm a musician and I have music playing throughout the podcast and highlights that we make. And that is, what is your favorite style of music?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a broad interest. I'm a deep music lover with very little talent. So I appreciate the entertainment and the skill. My single favorite type of music are the blues.
Okay.
Blues. Straight from the deep south, yeah. You might say started by Robert Johnson or James Lemon, I think was his name, one of the very first. But I love that genre. It's my favorite.
Excellent. Well, now, do you have a favorite song within that genre?
Yes, it's actually the rock version of blues. My single favorite song from when I was about 16 is Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith.
Oh, wow.
I love that tune. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They took the blues and put an edge to it, so they're very much a blues rock band.
They really are. They play some great music. Well, listen, you've written an amazing book. I've had a chance to go through it. What has made you so successful throughout your career? Obviously, you didn't start out with everything in a silver spoon. You kind of, were a farmhand and just kind of started out. But then you had some principles and some strategies and some guides that helped you become very successful in what you did. So what were those?
I have to give credit where it is due. My parents, they taught me so well. They poured so much into me and my brothers. They made sure we left home with strong character, strong values, something to stand on. And there were three principles that my parents taught, especially my dad. And that was work hard, be honest, and be respectful. Those three things were expected, and you did not deviate from those. So as I grew up, I accepted those values as my own, built them out, and you'll see that through the entire book. It's reflected in everything I say, everything I write, and I think that was the foundation right there.
Those three values are things that we all need to get back to. I grew up with my parents. I was the youngest of six myself, and those were the types of things that they taught us. You got to stand on your own 2 feet, keep saying good morning, treat people fairly, be respectful, and work hard. And
Yes,
if you
sir.
do those things and really focus on growing yourself every day, again, as my dad would always say, just keep saying good morning and just keep working hard, and you'll turn itself out and you'll do pretty good. So listen,
Yes.
I had a chance to go through your book, and I love the ideas and the principles that you teach. You know, in your book, you emphasize the principled lifestyle, right? The principled way of living. How do timeless values and principles actually translate into greater productivity in today's fast-paced work environment that people find themselves in with all the chaos?
Yes. Well, the very root of that question and that issue is this, Gerald. You have to accept life for what it is.
Yeah.
It's a series of problems coming your way. You start with that. If you accept that, now you have a chance to get something done. If you reject that, life's just going to run right over you.
Yes.
A lot of people these days think they're too good for that. Problems in life are a hassle. I'm above it. That stuff is beneath me. You're just making yourself a victim. That's how you're doing. A professional victim, a whiner, complainer. Nobody can rely upon you. You can't be dependent upon. So it starts with that. Now, if you accept life for what it is, you're going to develop strategies, tactics, skills, techniques to address those problems.
Right.
And you get really good at it. Well, here's something you realize. You need a toolbox.
Yeah.
You need a set of things you can go to solve those problems. Those are principles. If you don't have principles, you have an empty toolbox. You're facing life with no tools to deal with it. So you have to go to principle. That's fundamental. And that's why if you're a serious person, if you've accepted life for what it is, you're going to develop those skills so that you have tools, you have means, you have things to use. You basically become a serious person. You're looking for the deeper things in life. You have the things that are true, that were true before I got here and will be true after I leave. Those are the things that you look for. And that becomes your tools. That's what you bring to bear to solve those problems.
Yeah, I love that part of your book where you just lay it out, where you just say, life is nothing but one problem after the next. But those who are successful accept the reality that life will be filled with problems and that we don't hide from problems. We don't become a fainting goat, or we don't stick our head in the sand and become an ostrich, but that we develop, like you said, these principles and strategies and tools. And also you talked about in your book, the scientific method. Can you talk a little bit more about that, the scientific method?
Yes. Well, it truly is a dividing line issue. You're seeing a very clear separation in our country today between those that accept that and those that don't.
Yeah.
The nature of life, what it is. Well, the basic scientific principle, what I try to do, and I am one, I'm a trained scientist. I've done formal research and both in academia, which is published, and also in the private market, which was done for business plan. That concept, the scientific principle, has benefited humanity tremendously. So many improvements that have been brought. But what I try to do in the book is bring it down to a very practical method showing that every common Joe, every average Joe and Jane can use that concept every day with simple problem solving. You don't need a laboratory. You don't need a formal research credentials and academic appointment to get that done. It's everyday stuff. And here's the basic thing. Here's the most important concept. When you're facing a problem, the problem dumps itself in your lap. It's like a blob. So that's when you go to the doctor. You get a diagnosis. Let's say that diagnosis is cancer. Well, that rocks your world completely. Let's say you show up at work. All of a sudden, you lost half of your important clients. It just dumps itself right into your lap. It's an undefined, it's amorphous, it's threatening, it's shape-shifting. It's a very difficult thing. Well, here's the key. Take that problem and frame it. Put a frame around that problem. Don't work against the blob. Work against the frame. That's the key. That frame against that problem is a logical structure that you can then apply systematic problem-solving skills against that. And now you're going to get somewhere. You're going to get something done. And a couple of keys to that are, first of all, when you face a problem, break it down into its individual components. Usually a problem will have 4, 5, 6 components. If you try to tackle those all at the same time, you're overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. And that's a mistake we often make, especially men. We let things aggregate together, and now you're just mad. You're mad at life. You're mad at your spouse. You're mad at your kids. You're mad at your friends. You're mad at your job. You're mad at your boss. You're mad at everything. Well, you're facing a problem that seems unsolvable. Well, stop a minute. Break it down into its separable components. Get each component down as small as you can, frame those, and now work them one at a time. Yeah. Here's the key to all stress management. Simplify.
Yeah.
Simplify. Many people complicate. They make things more complex. They add problems to the mix. Well, that's self-defeating. You're just hurting yourself. Simplify. Break a problem down. Put a frame around it. Now work against that frame. Now you'll notice right away you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you get the frame wrong. That's fine. That's called experience. That's called trying. You're giving your best. You're going to get very good at that over time. The more practice you have, the more tools you have, the more principles you have, the better the frame, therefore the better the answer. You put a frame on that problem, you go to work on that frame, you're going to find an answer. And I give an example in my book of Samuel Morse.
I love that example.
Brilliant. Yeah, great historical example. You know, in that day and age, communication was a blob. It was very difficult. It was very slow, very bound to geography. You get something from here to Europe, a month minimum. Took 30 days at least. Well, it'll get there in less than a second today. Well, what happened? The first key was the Morse telegraph. Well, he saw the problem differently. He didn't look at the blob. He put a frame around that problem. He went to work on the frame, not the blob. And he gave us the telegraph. It's an amazing story. I encourage everyone to read about it. It's in all the great inventors did exactly that. Look at Alexander Miles with the elevator, et cetera, et cetera. There are so many examples. That's how it's done. Don't work against the blob, work against the frame. That's what a researcher or scientist is doing in a laboratory. You can do it every day.
Yes.
You can do it in your own personal life. It's a powerful, powerful tool.
Yeah, I really love that part of the book and just the story, the way you rolled the story out and you went back and told the history of what happened with Morse and the way he developed Morse code and tested it out. But he didn't get caught up in, like you said, the blob, because life, especially now, I mean, you think about it, you have AI, you have all of the turmoil and tariffs and other things that's happening, and it's creating massive multiple problems that if you just look at the whole, you are just paralyzed and overwhelmed, right? Yes. You're paralyzed. And that's where a lot of people are right now. They're paralyzed and overwhelmed, where if you were to stop and, like you said, frame the problem that you're facing, and I would even say, write it down, right? Just get a piece of paper and write it down, and then start breaking it down, and then go after one small element at a time to address it. But I'd love to hear feedback on that concept of the blob of challenge that we're facing now in life, right? With everything that's going on, that we don't get caught up in the blob, but that for each individual person, wherever they are, whether they're a business owner facing challenges with the economy and just the way things are done right now, or if you're an employee that maybe work for the government and you are laid off, or you are being outsourced by AI, your job's going away because the company's doing AI and it's replaced what you're doing. That's a blob, but you have to frame it.
Well, let's translate to a career now and talk about, there's a lot of stress in the workplace. Here's one very important point. So let's go back to basic principle. On this notion of problem solving, you got a fundamental choice. You can either be a victim or you can be someone who has a chance to succeed. There are no guarantees in life, but you want to give yourself the highest chance possible.
Exactly.
But here's some important things in the workplace. First of all, understand there are thousands of years of history behind our economic development. It didn't spring up 2, 3, 4 years ago. There's a deep, rich, not only American, human history, long, deep factors that bring us to where we are today. And here's what every individual needs to understand. When you set wherever you are, you're deciding, how am I going to produce? How am I going to make a living? What will be my source of revenue? How will I engage in the workforce? Understand an important point. Across from you in the United States, there are some 260 million consumers. They have a say. They have a vote. They are the ones that determine value. many folks will set when these stresses come along and think it's just their choice. No, you choose one side of that. Consumers have the ultimate say in what is valued. So look around yourself and see what is being valued and pay attention to that. You don't get to make that choice on your own. They have a say, they have a vote, and there's a burden of freedom. There's a burden of freedom that we all bear, and that is the willingness to change. We must be willing to think differently, to act differently, to take on different skills. And I would say this in the moment, with that in mind, keep this one other thought in mind, and that is, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You never know what circumstances will be laid at your feet. But here's what you can do when it comes to your profession and the workplace. Do things that give you options.
Yes.
That's what you need. You need options when these things come your way. So think about skills. Think about training. Think about doing things that give me options. I can't even know what my preferences will be 5 years from now. I may like very different things than I do today. That's within myself. Yeah, I have no idea what people will do around me, but I can do things now that give me options for tomorrow. Put effort and attention into that. You'll have a better life. So when those unexpected things come, I have options I can take because I did things 5 years ago that opened doors for me. And it usually comes down to skill development. So look at the world around you. Yes, sir. Look at the world around me. See what's being valued. Build skills that lean in that direction. And one thing above all, which I elaborate on in chapter 6, is teamwork. And those skills are incredibly important. Yes, networking and relationships are very important, fundamental. So those things give you options. That's the way to have a risk management plan, a buffer against those unexpected events.
Yeah, that's very well said. Now, there's something else you talked about that was really intriguing that I found in the book. You introduced this concept called the impact index. There's first I've heard it. And I love the way you laid it out because you took two things. You took ambition and competence. And so you're basically saying, hey, if I can take someone's ambition and rate that at a certain level from 1 to 10, and then take their capability or competence and rate that at a certain level and divide those, that's going to give me a score of my impact. And what it stood out to me was that if you are below like 0.75, that's what you have in the book. If you're below 0.175, then you're pretty much along the lines of a deadbeat because you may have competencies, but you're not ambitious, right?
Yes.
You can get some things done, but you have no desire to like get them done. People will look at you and go, you're a waste of talent, right? Because you have that skill, but you're not ambitious. On the other side, you call them meteors, where they're super ambitious, but have very little competency or capability. And it's almost like a meteorite coming down on the earth. You just know it's going to hit somewhere and it's going to explode and cause a lot of mess. It'll be impactful, but in the wrong way. And so, like, how did you come up with that concept? I love the concept. Have you used it throughout your career?
Yes, that's a great question, Gerald. That is a direct result of background and then changes through life. So we had this traditional background, my wife and I, the Texas Farm and Ranch, very straightforward incentives. If you don't work, you don't eat. It's very clear, the feedback is immediate and there's no BS, if you will, along the way. It's very straightforward. Well, we made a change, went to graduate school, earned a doctorate. We went into the banking and finance industry, worked through corporate America and then into private equity, the small and large teams all along the way. Well, when you get into organizations, it isn't nearly so straightforward. There are games, there are stunts, political games. People are doing everything except what they should be doing, thinking about everything but what the problem is in front of us. So I found myself reaching back to those old traditional values and looking for a way to apply it in the modern world. And that is what I came up with in the workforce. That is proprietary, developed by me, and I applied it many years. I found it to be very successful, and I wanted to share that. And here's the basic idea. Gerald, if you walk into an organization, the first thing you see is the org chart. The CEO, the board of directors, the VPs, the EVPs, the mid-range, middle management, and then the worker bees, entry-level jobs. That's what most people notice and never look past that.
Right.
Well, here's some insight. That has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to succeed as an organization. In fact, sometimes that's exactly why you will fail, because of that org chart. There's something underneath that, much deeper than the org chart. It's human behavior, the choices people make. And that makes the difference in whether or not you achieve your plan. So as a matter of me problem solving, basically doing those chapter 1 problem solving principles and trying to manage a team in this modern environment and get stuff done, the answer was the impact index. And it is very simple, in simple form, just as you described. You take two ideas, ambition and competency or capability. Ambition on top, capability on bottom. Ambition is what I think I can do, what I plan to do, how I view myself. Capability is what I can actually do. Well, if ambition outstrips capability, there's a train wreck coming. You can't deliver. You have grand notions of yourself. You can't get it done. And you're going to fail in some spectacular way. Well, if the reverse is true, if capability outstrips ambition, you're dead weight. You're not delivering. You're not making good on what you're capable of. And in a business terms, they both kill your business plan.
Yeah.
Deadbeats drain your resources. They take expense from your organization. They do not deliver. The meteors have grand plans and grand statements. They're going to take the ship down, and you with it if you let them. So what I discovered is you look at those behaviors, you manage toward that. It's that middle group. They have balanced properly ambition and capability. That is a high-performing team. At that point, differences don't matter. We have different backgrounds. We have different preferences. We have different skills. We have different experiences. Those things will tear a team apart. The one thing you focus on in the business place is your plan, your business plan. That's what brings everyone together. You're all focused on that. And if you manage toward that true professional behavior, I have properly balanced ambition with capability, then those are the people that lock arms. They bring all their differences together. They bring the best of those attributes together as a team, and those teams do amazing things.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the book and just the different insights and examples that you gave. And it's really a section of the book, and I thought it was really well thought through. And again, it was a new concept that I had never heard of. Somebody put it together that way. And I thought it was really innovative in the way you did that.
Thank you.
It came from your background, like you said, out in the real world with farming. And how do I deal with that, with those principles in the modern world with all the chaos that can go on?
Yes, sir.
You also talk about a key message is the life with abundant purpose. And I like the statement, a life with abundant purpose. It really is about the way we think. And if we think in abundance, and it's not just, for me, abundance isn't just about having, way more money than I can ever spend, right?
No.
Because there are people who have abundance in wealth, in finances, but they're miserable in relationships. And they're miserable with their family. They're miserable with their personal health and so on. So to me, abundance is how can I be wealthy in all parts of my life?
Yes, sir.
Think in my knowledge, in my relationships, in my friendships, and so on. So taking this concept that you have of the life with abundant purpose, how can this strategy help professionals reduce their stress and improve performance on a daily basis? How can we make it practical for people to take that concept and use it on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, sir. Another great question. I would say this, Gerald. Here's an idea that I hope sticks in the mind of every one of your listeners, and that is rationality leads you straight to faith. The rational, problem-solving, intellectual mind leads you straight to the questions of faith. And here's how that works. If you're an intelligent person and you're a deep thinker and you consider the facts around you, you're going to ask a simple question. Where did all this come from? This universe that we look at, so how'd that start? Exactly. Did it just pop up? You only have two answers to that. It just happens to be here, just happened to show up someday, or it's designed, and therefore there is a designer. There's no middle ground. It's one of those two answers. An intellectual person is going to ask that question, and you have to answer it one way or another. Well, a follow-on question to that, the universe itself and all of its structure and wonder is the human heart. How'd that get here? Why does it operate the way it does? It's of high interest that the physical things, including money, are not what satisfy the human heart. It's the intangibles. Love, faith, hope, courage, altruism, nobility. Those are the things that satisfy the human spirit. Well, for those of you that are after nothing but cash, I've got news for you. It's an empty mountain when you get to the top of it. There's nothing there. You're still looking for those intangibles. I would say to all of your listeners, build your life around the intangibles, and on that basis, pursue the tangibles. That will be a very successful, very satisfying, very fulfilling life. The human heart needs purpose.
Yes.
The human heart is not an accident. It is no more of an accident than this universe that we live in. It is not an accident. I'll grant to my atheist friends that there is some chance that this just popped up, this world we live in. If it's an accident, I'll say this, it is one heck of an accident. Oh my goodness. If you want to take your chances on that answer, you go right ahead, but I don't think so. I think it's designed. And the human heart is the same way. It is by design. That is the hand of God. It rests within the human spirit. We are made in his image, his likeness. We reflect that in what satisfies us. It's not cash. We need cash, but that does not fulfill the human heart. It's those intangibles. So build your life on those things. Pursue love, pursue faith, pursue hope. And here's a simple sequence that you see played out through human history. If you take faith away, you take God away, there's no hope. If there's no hope, there will soon be no love. Study history and tell me I'm wrong. That's exactly how it works. So the human heart needs to pursue those things. You will find success in every other area if you do that. Those are matters of principle. Those are the deep things in life. Pursue those first. You will find fulfillment. And then the physical things come along too, because you're using the same principles to address the physical issues, whether it's a job, skills, income, revenue, etc. You're using those same principles that you pursued for the intangibles, the matters of love, faith, hope, etc.
Exactly. Now, you have held high impact leadership roles in finance.
Yes.
What productivity lessons from the world that you came from can be applied to someone working in trade or starting their own business? Right? Because you were in a very high level job and, you went and got your PhD, you've worked in high finance, but, you also have that down to earth, real essence about you. So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe they're not at that level, but they're in trade, or they're starting their own business because they've been outsourced or they've been late or they've lost their job to AI?
Okay, that's another great question. You're a fantastic host. Let me start with a general principle, and then let me drill down to details. Here's a concept, another concept I hope sticks with all of your listeners, and that is when you define working class, we should not use income. We should use a literal definition. The working class is the class that is working. And here's why that is. You should not refer to income because I can say from personal experience in growing up, Melissa and I have had very thin budgets, poor as church mice. We've had very bad budgets. We've had a little, we've had a lot. And on the heels of that banking and finance career, we built a manufacturing company making small arms ammunition. Then, of course, farm and ranch is all private business. So we've seen that whole gamut, private entrepreneur and the corporate world, etc. And here's the concept. Whether you have a lot and you're trying to maintain that, or whether you have a little and you're trying to grow it, the principles are the same. They don't differ. Those principles that you're going to use to get that done, they are the same for both individuals. So if we pitch the income definitions, those things just divide us. It's class warfare. They pit us against each other. There are people that make a lot of money doing that, but it's not helpful to the individual. So now let's get down to more detailed stuff. To that entrepreneur and to that business owner, here's some key things you have to do. You have to be ensconced in the details. There is nothing beyond your purview. You need to be embedded in because it's all about margin. You have to manage the margin. You have revenue, you have cost, you get to keep the difference. Make yourself an absolute expert in that. So whatever business venture you're going into, focus on that, the margins, the profit margin. You have to be able to manage that. Lock into it, understand it, live and breathe it, make that your mission, and then do your best. But you're going to have to know that. And here's the second concept. The forces of economic development, and I detail this in chapter 6, thousands and thousands of years take us to this point in time, this point in history, and there's one feature in the workplace that is permanent and it's not going away, and that's teamwork. You're going to do nothing by yourself.
Right.
Virtually nothing. The individual contributor, that's several decades gone. It's almost all teamwork. That will be the case. You start a small business, you're the entrepreneur, single proprietorship, you're going to have vendors. You're going to have people you work with. You're going to have people on your team. You're going to hire people. You must have teamwork. So build skills around that. Build skills that make you a team manager. You need the technical skills to manage the margin in your business. You need the soft skills to manage the team that you need around you. Those things are critical.
You manage stuff, but you lead people.
Yes,
right?
sir.
You manage stuff, but you lead people. And I think that's something to really keep in mind, because sometimes, in the workplace, we can get in the mindset of managing people, and you don't manage people because you can't manage people. People are going to do what they want to do. What you can do is lead them first by example.
Yes.
By you setting an example. So if you want to have a growing and learning organization, guess what has to happen? You as the leader have to be a learning and growing person.
Yes, sir.
Because people in your company are like your kids. They don't do what you say. They do what you do.
Do what you do. That's correct. Yeah. And I would add one thought to that, Gerald, that to that business owner, that entrepreneur trying to find success, your business plan is the key. That's what everyone will focus around. You need to know that and be able to communicate that to everyone around you. Your team, the people you work with, it's not personality that will glue them together. That comes and goes. It's ephemeral. Stress will fracture that. People will divide based upon preference and background, etc. It's your plan, your business plan. Know that very well, have it very well developed, be able to communicate that in great detail, and you're going to manage to do that all along the way. The people that stick and that bind with you around your plan, that's the team you want. That's the people you want to work with.
It really drills down into with the plan, which is what is your overall vision? And it has just you and bigger than just making money. What's your vision for business? What are the values that you're living by? And how do you get people to buy in? And people buy into things that they can help create.
Yes, sir.
So that's where it comes in. Now, let me ask you this, because you also talk about marriage and family as a central theme in your book. What practical advice do you have for balancing career ambitions with family responsibilities without sacrificing productivity?
Yes, sir. Well, I had an experience early in my academic career, actually, before I got into banking and finance. I had the privilege of working with two very successful academic professors. They both had a lot of influence on me in my development, how I went about my program, the skills I built. And both of them, they were late in their careers. They were 30 plus years in the academic environment, very accomplished, accreditation, lots of acclaim, great success. They both went through a divorce within a few months. Their marriages, with long-term marriages, talking 30 years of marriage with several kids, ended. And I was right there watching that happen. They were right next to me. In fact, I got to have deep conversation with both of them about what went on. That impacted me a great deal. To me, that was a marker. That was a signal. Early in my career, I noted that, if I don't pay attention, that'll be me 3 decades from now, if I don't watch what's happening. And so I did. I paid attention. And I asked both of them, actually. One of them was a particularly deep conversation. I said, so you're an older man talking to a young man. What went wrong? What happened? He said, it's just communication. That we just stopped talking to each other. We grew apart to where we had nothing in union, nothing together. Marriage is empty. I took that to heart deeply, and I realized that no matter what I'm trying to achieve in the business world, if I put that above my marriage and I stop treating my wife with respect and love and companionship, I'll be lost 30 years from now. I'll have the money, I'll have the acclaim, and I'll have wreckage around me in terms of relationship. So now you have to choose. And I go back to those intangibles. The intangibles are the base for which you pursue the tangibles. That's important to keep that in mind, or you will lose them. So I put love, faith, and hope first, and I put business second, and I work hard at all of those. My wife, just a couple of weeks, will celebrate 39 years of marriage. We have 4 kids, 9 grandkids. Very pleased with family. It's truly a pleasure. But if you don't make it priority, you will lose it. Yeah. And anyone that tells you it's worth it, they're a fool. Yeah. They pursue money first and family second. You're talking to a fool. Don't listen to them. They have no advice that you want to follow. Right. You have to put things in order. Exactly. I think of Jack Welch. He was a big name. When you'll remember that name, Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric. I'm going to say it straight. The man was a fool. He pursued money. He was very successful. He lost his family. If you want that, go right ahead. It's out there. I think that's a very foolish thing to do. I simply will not do it.
Yeah, I hear you. So let me ask you this, and as we get ready to land this plane here in our conversation, again, I have thoroughly enjoyed reading your book and going through it and really just kind of coming up with these questions around it with a lot of the insights I've gained from it. And that is, with so many societal pressures today, how can young professionals maintain their personal responsibility and focus while staying true to their foundational values?
Yes, sir. Here's something that is another critical point to understand in economics, and that is my specialty. That's what I'm trained in. That's what I applied. Economics, which drives the business world. There is only one value that is inherent to that, and that is gain, the value of gain. There are many other values that are critical. We all have to bring them. Each one of those, you bring them to the business game. They're not inherently there. They have to be a part of you that you bring into the workplace. That's critical. So I would ask a question to your listeners. What is your North Star? What's your guidepost? What's your foundation? Upon what do you stand? You better spend a lot of time thinking about that and be very deliberate. I've chosen mine. Mine is the Almighty, the God of the Hebrews, the God of the Bible. That's my foundation. That's what I look to as a guidepost. If you have just yourself, I've found that to be completely inadequate. It's not enough. I'm riddled with flaws. They're inherent. If I just depend on me, I'm done before I start. And that's true with everyone around me. I need a North Star that I look to that guides me as to what is true. Be very careful how you choose that, because that will determine those values and those principles that you bring to the workplace on top of that single value that's already there, which is gain. You need more than that. If it's just gain, well, we're a very immoral, barbaric people. We won't achieve much because it'll be riddled with terrible things. And history shows that to be very clear. So we need to bring that moral base with us and hold to it. And I would say it like this, Gerald. In all of my days in the high pressure environment, there were some very, very difficult times in the workplace. I had one thing in mind. The thing that I cared about working through that is that last conversation, the last one I have, that's the one I'll have with my maker. That's the one I really care about. I'm going to stand before him and he's going to ask me, what did you do with what I gave you? I gave you time. I gave you talents. I gave you abilities. I gave you opportunities. What did you do with those? I want to be able to say I did my best. I did the best that I could. And that's the conversation I care about. And I can't even count the number of times in the workplace where that makes all the difference. So which conversation do you care about? Those that are happening behind your back? Those that are around you that you don't control? The conversation in the media? There's nothing more worthless than a national conversation. It's the one at the kitchen table. That's the one that matters. It's that last conversation that you should care about, and that makes all the difference.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and being able to talk with you about your book, Dr. Teague. Where can people learn more about you, and where can they get the book?
Thank you, sir. The best place is the website. Here is a picture of Working Man's Guide. The website is the title, www.aworkingmansguide.com. Drop the apostrophe, keep the A workingmansguide.com. You can buy direct off the website. There are many references there as well. You can also buy off Amazon, any of your major retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Indigo, Indie Books, etc. You can buy it there. And I have all 4 types on my website, paperback, hardback, ebook, and audiobook. You can also get ebook and audiobook on Amazon as well. I am the narrator. I did it myself. So those are the good source. And also I have 2 profiles on Facebook where I have a video series going regarding the national debt. I'm doing a series on the national debt, and those are all posted on Facebook. And that's profile / my name, Dr. Mark L. Teague, and also / a working man's guide. Either one will work and get you what you need. But those are the best places for material.
Excellent. Well, we'll put those in the show notes and all the other information. This has been a pleasure and an honor for me to sit and learn from you, to read your book and to, learn these new principles and insights that you have. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I knew I was looking forward to this conversation because of how much I got out of the book, and I knew that our conversation wasn't going to let me down, and it did not. Very intriguing, very exciting, and you're true to your spirit in the way that you present yourself as, hey, I'm just a down-to-earth person. I've got a lot of great things, but, there's some core values that I stick to. You're a very straight shooter, so I really appreciate that about you.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure. Pleasure to be with you.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.